Well, good morning. We're here again at the Henry Ford. I think they call it the Henry Ford, right? The whole plantation?
Basically, yeah.
And where we went to the village last time, we are going to go into the Henry Ford Museum specifically, which is probably for the best because it's supposed to get pretty hot and humid out here.
Yeah, they also have the Henry Ford Rouge factory tour here that we're not gonna do.
The outdoor village had a lot of industry and there's a lot of historic value there. They moved buildings for that. No, this one, however, is supposed to have more vehicles, which I think I'm very excited to see.
There's some interesting stuff here for sure.
Not all just Ford, and one particular bus that I'm very excited to check out. It's a pretty big museum. We'll start over here, and the president's car. And one thing I noticed right off the bat is you have like a Lincoln, right? That makes sense. Then you also have Chevrolet over here and Cadillac, which we'll get into all this. I'm very excited. Now, before we get started, I do want to give a trigger warning to some of you. I tend to speak in such a way that might offend people's sensibilities with my opinions on automotive design because I'm very passionate. I know for a fact, the last time we were at the EV Expos, the Electrify Expo, I had made a comment about a vehicle that I thought was hands down easily the worst looking automobile made in the last 30 years. And one gentleman did not take kindly to that. So if you're sensitive about such things, go ahead and turn this video off right now. Let's get into it. Now this beauty, this beast, look at those tires. You know those are fancy. This apparently was Reagan's Continental.
Yeah, this is his 1972 Lincoln. He used it from 1972 to 1992. And
Until 92?
Until 92. This protected him, or this is his refuge after he was shot in 1981.
I did not know that. That's a cool car, but look at these, so huge windows on these. I mean, real thick, I should say. And then the modern vehicles will have, and I'm sure this has something similar, but oxygen tanks and run flats, and I wonder what this bumper drops down for. I would imagine that there's some armaments in here too, but I'm sure that bulletproofness, this is more of a defensive vehicle than it is an offensive vehicle, but.
It is a completely armored closed car with a permanent roof and bulletproof glass, which was the standard after President Kennedy's assassination.
Oh, what a shame.
But in a concession to the president's desire to be seen, a sunroof panel can be opened for two people to stand up with their upper bodies outside the car.
Huh. Now this was the John F. Kennedy president's car. The beast for him. And apparently this is the car he was assassinated in, which is fascinating because apparently this roof, as compared to that roof, is actually removable, which kind of led to his demise. Kind of interesting. What an automobile. I noticed there's a little step here. That's kind of something. Oh, and 3 rows in there. But I guess a removable roof, huh?
So after President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963 in this car, the Secret Service took it, added more armor to it, added a roof to it, repainted it, and then they put it back into service. And it didn't retire until 1977.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't know that I want to ride around in my predecessor's car that has just been assassinated. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, I think I'd want a new car if I were him.
Yeah, but though I do appreciate the frugality.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, especially back then, that frugality was the name of the game. They didn't want to waste taxpayer funds, so boy. 1950 Lincoln. White walls, that's classy.
They call it the bubble top.
Love that. Yeah, and you want to talk about, I mean, it's probably better than a convertible even, in a lot of ways.
Well, they called it a convertible. So they used this from 1950 to 1967. So there was about like a 17 to 20 year lifespan on all of these vehicles that they used as like presidential vehicles.
Yeah, I think now the technology is changing so much that I don't know that you can do that as much, but ooh, look at those details. So apparently we're going newest to oldest. This is interesting.
In terms of presidential vehicles, yeah.
Look at those details right there on those taillights. Ooh, wait. This is a 1939 Lincoln, the very first automobile. So this was used from 39 to 50 for Franklin D. Roosevelt.
And This was the first vehicle designed specifically for a president, and it had a list of 12 different features that they wanted added specifically for the president.
This is a very, look at the suicide doors there. You got your spare there still. This is a very large vehicle. It kind of looks like it would lumber. And it's interesting how the logo has changed throughout the years.
Or the White House staff sent 5 pages of special instructions with the order of this new presidential vehicle. Because of the World War was looming, and then after Pearl Harbor was bombed, they added more security features. And there were custom features on this car that made it easier to lift President Roosevelt in and out since his legs had become paralyzed from the fearsome and incurable disease of polio. But he enjoyed riding in public, and the top of the Sunshine Special convertible was often down as he greeted crowds.
I noticed, though, that you would have, so not only the detail of the taillights, which I always find fascinating. Taillights are a very important part of the vehicle, but you got steps up here and hold bars, I'm sure, so people could be good lookouts. This is very interesting, and it looks like that's a fuel fill on the backside, but police do not pass, and he didn't get like the #1 plate. Circa 1902 Brotham, this was a carriage pulled behind for Teddy Roosevelt's carriage. Look at this.
Yeah, he was not fond of automobiles, so he didn't like to use one. He preferred the horse-drawn carriage for public parades and outings.
I feel like that's kind of surprising, but look at this glass in here, and that's beautiful. Wow. And leather bound. This is neat. I wonder if he just didn't find them reliable, or if you're just used to being in a horse, so this is what you know.
Well, the carriages were used to show your wealth and power back in the day.
Leaf springs. Very nice. It is train time, apparently. So this is an old steam locomotive, it looks like. I bet that's, yeah, it looks like steam. This guy's in 1940. This is a big, holy cow. That's steam as well, isn't it? Or is that coal?
This is an Allegheny locomotive. It was one of the largest and most powerful steam locomotives ever built. They hauled freight, mostly coal, in trains that were 1.25 miles long. During World War II, they were put to service hauling military troops, wounded soldiers, and prisoners of war.
This is freaking huge. This is, I mean, just a monster of a rig. Holy cow. So it was a steam locomotive. They must have used coal to generate steam. What a cool spot. Wow, okay, another little carriage. That's cool looking. A little style there. Kind of looks like a Lincoln. Well, this is really cool. They have a little camera on there so you can, I've had that exact idea before. How fun is that? Now, apparently this is a 1926 Rolls-Royce new Phantom limousine, and at the time, it was $12,000 when the average wage was $1,200. You would work 8 years to afford this car. Oh, cow.
It was considered the best car in the world.
Cord. I always find that funny. A cord. There's some automobiles in here. There's a Continental. I've never seen one like this. Kind of reminds me of a Thunderbird, though. If you look at that. Huh, I love the white walls, isn't that classy? An Edsel back there. This is a neat Lincoln Zephyr. Very cool. And they even have white walls on the carriages. I find that interesting too. Stevens Durham Model U limousine. Oh, it is limousine-esque. Look at that sucker. What is that, a Honda Accord? Yes, an 83 Honda Accord. Look at that design change. There was a CBS crew on the road. I love this door. Be a nice feature to have today. On the road, and they traveled the country for 27 years, it seemed. He had to convince his boss to let him do it. Oh, can we see it? Oh. Some glare in there, a little dark, but what a novel concept. And now that's basically what we do. How fun is that? I don't think they have any solar. Oh man, you know this is right up our alley. What a beautiful truck. Old Ford F-100. And we've seen these before. Say 1935 Stagecoach travel trailer. I love the little clearance lamps and the lighting of the time really, oh, there we go. Now we can see him. There we are. But the lighting itself really tells a story, doesn't it? And like you only needed one stop lamp on the back. Now this is a 1927 Bluebird, #1 school bus. So you might have ridden in a horse-drawn carriage before this. This is a really interesting concept, and students loaded from the back. So there's the cockpit right up here. And this is Lenny's great-great-great-great-grandpappy.
This could be America's oldest surviving school bus.
But, oh, interesting how they have different windshields. But his great-great-great-great-grandpappy actually had a dog nose. That's interesting. Look how small that is compared to the body, the whole engine. Isn't that interesting? And it was built on a Ford chassis. Today there are Bluebirds that are primarily built on, they'll build the entire chassis other than maybe a Freightliner nose or something to that effect. Our bus is the entire body is Bluebird, but they just slapped an engine in there, a Caterpillar in our case. But you can still get the Bluebird Vision with a Ford motor. You get an electric Ford motor, or I believe you can get the Cummins. Of course, we always try to leave a little bit up to the imagination, especially in a place like this. But one thing that I love is there's little details that they leave around. They just sprinkle here and there about diesel electric locomotives. And so you'd have a generator, like a lot of today's are. They generate electricity, and that's what moves the motors. It's kind of a cool deal. And they were experimenting with those back in the 20s. Really cool. So some of these are the world's fastest fuel tank. Kind of funny how we went from like horses for most folks, the common folks, and you only want to work your horse so far, and so to if you're very well off, you can have an automobile. That's a new scary thing. To like, okay, now everybody can have an automobile with a Model T, and then hey, why don't we race them? And what does that look like to you?
A Velomobile.
It is just like a Velo. They all steal the same. Oh, you need to see the tip of that. If you guys aren't familiar with Velomobiles, they are basically a big shell like that, very aerodynamic, kind of goofy looking, but they will allow you to sit back in a trike and just cruise. Basically, you just take the best of all aerodynamics. Emma doesn't want me to have a Velomobile, do you?
No, I don't, because I think they're too low to the ground and you'll get smushed.
Those aerodynamics, look at that. I never noticed this little detail there. Look at that. Huh. I wonder if that's just the radiator coming out.
This exhibit was provided by General Motors called Driven to Win. So this is all about the history of racing.
General Motors supplied this. That's interesting. Yeah. Even though they're competitors. This is cool. Look at all those air filters up there. Of all of the races, honestly, this would probably be one of the most interesting ones to me, especially with these knobby tires and you're going up, maybe not the cliffs necessarily, but
how do you win the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb 9 times in 13 years? Number 1, drive well. Number 2, continually improve your car.
All of our automobiles are the ancestors of these sorts of ideas and aerodynamics and playing and making vehicles more efficient. This is kind of neat. So they build these like clay sculptures before they build the actual car. And this is one of these sculptures, but they put real wheels on there, and that's really neat. Choosing like, clay versus like the, maybe the paint. I'm sure they wanted to choose a lightweight but durable paint. That can't be cheap. But you can see like a pre-production and then a, production one. I think you can buy one of these today if you got the money. And then this Ford GT was in the Le Mans. It's a 24-hour race, and I think a team of 3, and they compete and they go around this lap. It's a big old lap, but this is kind of cool. They did not clean it up, and they didn't need to. How awesome is that? Precision Automobile. It looks like they based this design off the Ford Fusion with the front. It's kind of funny in NASCAR, you don't need headlights. So. I know it's all over this. The confetti for winning. Oh, I see.
This is the 2011 Ford Fusion. This is the Daytona 500's youngest winner, Trevor Bayne. He won on it one day after his 20th birthday in 2011.
But also, this is a Fusion only in name. Nothing about this is Ford Fusion-y. Size of these tires, oh man, especially compared to the front. They look puny from this angle, but these are huge tires.
So this is the newest Ford Racing Mustang GT3, and it just raced in the 2025 Daytona.
This one actually has headlights though.
And it won first place. So this is like their newest edition of the Mustang racing car.
Okay, yeah, you can see it. A lot of carbon fiber. Oh, wow. But it looks like real doors. These are not all Fords. So you got the Prius, that's a first gen Prius. There's a little more info if you want to go ahead and give this a little read, but they're talking about how can we become more green? And there's a juxtaposition of like a Ram versus a Prius. And that's the first gen Prius, which I would argue is one of the ugliest cars. One of the uglier cars, at least. Maybe not the ugliest, but today's Camry actually kind of takes some styling from this door in particular. And one thing you'll notice, if you have a keen eye, is where's that dashboard? So if you want to read out your speed, a lot of people who have never been in one of these or driven them, your speedometer is off to the right, which I kind of find interesting. There's a Ram 1500. I feel like they were trying to create a juxtaposition there, but I'm a bit of a Ram fan myself. They're talking a lot about like how technology is making it into the cars, how the internet's working, and get out of a job yet, keep buying foreign, and buying a foreign car was like it was a bad thing to do, where we all know that a good portion, especially GM, and we're not making them here in the US anymore. Kind of interesting. I actually had an Explorer just like that.
Big houses became a status symbol, nicknamed McMansions in reference to the fast food giant. Even the garages were supersized.
I still like to use that phrase, but it is true. The modern house is freaking massive. That's the Omni there. Who made that beautiful?
I would drive that.
I think that was, wasn't that, who was that? Oh, the Dodge Omni. Yeah, they were trying to compete with Honda, but I don't think the quality wasn't quite there. That's a beautiful green.
Joel knows I have a thing for weird shaped cars.
See, they used to pull trailers. It takes a big car to do a big job. In the days before SUVs, many people ordered their sedans with special equipment for towing. This is funny, actually. So like the Mercury Marquis, Pontiac Granville, Chrysler Newport, and the Ford Excursion were all within inches, 3 inches of each other, 4 inches. How funny is that? Yep. So we think the vehicles are getting bigger and bigger, and they're getting taller.
I would drive that out of this museum if I could.
That was a Toyota Corona from 1966. The Japanese do make a good car, apparently.
You know I have a love for the weird little shaped vehicles like that.
She likes the sharper, boxier shape, like the Volkswagen thing. I think they're hideous.
They should have one of those here.
This is very interesting, like the floating, almost like a floating top.
Supposed to be very futuristic design.
Corvair, that's what it is. It is sort of futuristic in its own way. Yeah.
For the time, yeah.
The Bel Air, that is always going to be a beautiful vehicle, I think. I mean, just the lines and the curve. Oh, what a beautiful automobile. Oh, some Volkswagen sedan. Oh, that thing's huge. This must have been a Ford, huh? Yep. They're sort of the bubble design, though. I wish they'd...
That's a 1949 Ford sedan.
Oh, there's a Jeep, or a GP. Willys Overland Jeep Runabout was a general purpose vehicle. And we still see some similar design today, don't we? They really haven't changed much. I'm a little jealous of your sister's first car.
Yeah.
A
nice
2012 Jeep. It's a pretty nice vehicle.
1924 Essex coach.
These sure are pretty. Even made out of wood. The paint just like, man, look at that sucker. And the gold, which has definitely gone out of fashion. Rose gold has kind of come back.
Weren't most of the Model Ts black?
I think the Model Ts were black up until a point. I'm sure they have a thing on it, but you can have any color you want as long as it's black. It has something to do with the technology of the time and expenses and such. Again, lighting technology really tells the story, but just like today we have HIDs and LEDs, and if your car doesn't have LEDs and such, it doesn't really look like a new car. Americans didn't invent the automobile, but we embraced it and quickly made it our own. The car led us to reshape our culture and landscape like no other invention. And what a cool display here. I feel like we want that. I want everything about this.
Where would we put this?
And opposite of that, because they're just throwing out the coolest stuff. We have some of the stagecoaches, but also the bicycle. And this is a safety bicycle. And at some point, big, huge wheels were the norm, right? Like that was the original. But this bicycle is much more safe, given the smaller wheels and more approachability. I mean, also really like the position of the handlebars there. Oh, that's a perfect example, an illustration of the large wheels versus the small wheels. I feel like today's bicycles are mostly really rider forward, right? Your face is like the first thing that would hit. I like an upright position.
Yeah.
That is probably the pinnacle of bicycle design right there.
Probably. They're trying to go for more aerodynamic designs now.
Yeah, but, and they say, well, it doesn't really matter, you don't, and I get it. Like, you're gonna get more power in a certain position, but.
They have an old school diner here that you can actually eat at.
Okay, well, I am getting a little hungry, so maybe we come back. And here is a Chevy Spark with some Velodyne. You know that everybody's, you know, spending all their money on self-driving. Yeah, this is a 2016 GM. It looks like it's been repainted, actually. That's kind of funny. Is this the car for you? Now, if you guys had to pick one of these, obviously you have a little, maybe more practical, I don't know, but also very classy. Do we need cars? What should cars be? Where are we going? But here's the thing they really could bring back. This is Eldorado. This is probably almost peak automotive design and aerodynamic if you look at it. But holy, why do we ever get rid of wings? I do love the juxtaposition here of this like massive like rocket. I mean, look at, again, taillights, man. Look at those suckers. And this car is almost two of the Chevy Spark. Or what is that, the Volt? Bolt?
Bolt.
Yeah, maybe not quite two, but it is a funny juxtaposition. Though they serve the same purpose, transportation-wise, you're not turning heads as you would with that Eldorado.
All right, so they actually have this museum broken down by like mode of transportation. So we've done trains, we've done cars, now we're moving into heroes of the sky, the airplanes.
And it's very interesting because I believe, so this was actually a Ford airplane, but it's really about the motor.
So 1926 Ford Flivver.
It's quite interesting because we were talking about aerodynamics, but this is really when you'd think about aerodynamics, right? Things today, of course, are way different, but this is also kind of interesting, still seeing like, you know, they were playing around with some of the designs and some
It's
corrugated
interesting
metal.
that people trusted Ford so much, they said if Ford had faith in the aircraft, then it must be practical, they must be able to do it, and it must work. The first commercially successful all-metal aircraft, the Ford Tri-Motor, opened a new era in commercial aviation in the late 1920s. Nicknamed the Tin Goose.
Now we're going to go into the Wrights, and it does seem like the Wright brothers, well, were a pretty big part of Henry Ford's fascination, and I'm sure that their innovations certainly changed the world. How do we get back down there? Because we need to check that out.
And if you remember that Henry Ford Greenfield Village has the Wright brothers' home in it, and you can go in it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's cool. The first photographs of an airplane, right? And they were just laying down. I don't know that I would have had the gumption, but it is quite interesting. Also kind of fascinating, you know, exploring with the design of the front wings here. 1903 Wright Flyer. So length 21 feet, wingspan 40 feet. It was about 605 pounds, and the longest flight was 852 feet with an average speed of 9.9 miles an hour. I'm surprised they even went this far. That's kind of interesting with this guy.
These are the materials they used.
So what is it?
They're canvas and then a steel cable.
Adds up. Well, and they were into the bicycles, right? And they gave a lot of credit to their sister as well, that she was a big part of aviation history. But so apparently they wanted to do a little bit of testing, and so they mounted it to a bike. They got some wind, and they could test some of their theories using a contraption like this. It's kind of cool. It is fascinating to me, though, that a bicycle was the inspiration, you know, for a lot of their experimentation and such.
Their formula for success was 1, wings to lift, 2, power to move forward, and 3, reliable control.
Adds up. The Wrights capitalized on a national craze bicycles. In their shop, they made repairs and sold accessories and produced models of their own design. We saw some of those actually in the museum as well. Here's a helicopter.
This is also a National Historic Engineering landmark.
It's kind of funny though. I think that a lot of folks stop by now. We'd have personal helicopters. We're all flying around and this and that. And you can get your own like little drone copter sort of thing, but yeah, not quite the Jetsons, right? Now this set of collections is the bicycle. I'm really surprised to see this. Here's some cool collections. Ooh, that's a pretty bike. Almost like a root beer. Schwinn. Schwinn is not quite in favor anymore, right? Huffy, that's a beautiful bike. I would not mind owning that bicycle right there. And my bicycle.
I used to have a bike with beads on the wheel spokes like this.
Those were so obnoxious. So obnoxious. Although Stingray, Emma does not like these. Why don't you like these?
I just don't think that they seem very comfortable.
You got the ape hangers there, you got the banana seat, and 2 different size wheels.
Not my jam.
I want to ride one at least. But competitive cycling, I mean, we recently did tandem bicycling. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people in one. This is fascinating. The Blue Streak bicycle, that's a beautiful bicycle. My back hurts just looking at that thing. Price was $75. Notice that they have metal spokes, but wooden rim. Velocipede, 1866. Oh, that's a cool seat.
One Paris newspaper dismissed this as nothing more than an optimal way to wear out shoes.
Look at the pedals on these. I love this. Which okay, this I think is the pinnacle of design right here. I guess for the average commuter, I should say. Which in Netherlands, I think bicycles are just like a normal thing from what we're seeing. Like this is the grandma bicycle, but I mean, it's just a way to get around, and why not?
It's interesting that they delineate women's bicycle versus men's bicycles here.
Now what I've noticed is even on the websites for a lot of these bicycle manufacturers, and that's another wood frame, but on a lot of these, they, look at that short frame, weird. They're like, oh, you can differentiate, but even when you check the box for men's or women's, it still shows you the same bikes.
I think it's the difference of like a step through, because women used to get on bikes with dresses, and so they want to kick their leg over.
But yeah, dress versus like you can get over that one. However, honestly, which one are you gonna smack your cherries and berries on? That. Oh wow, that's quite a deal there. Look at that. Whoa, that's a contraption. And the high wheel bicycle, circa 1878. It's kind of fun. They're almost comical in their designs. In 1870, British bicycle racer James Moore turned heads and dominated competitions with this unusual machine.
Well, that's a footstep right there on the back.
Oh, that's how they.
That's how you get on.
Dude, neither of us should ever attempt that. But I do think that even Ford believes, and I didn't know they were making bikes, but we've seen Porsche's bike, but even they believe that there's a place for bicycling and not just for sport.
Yeah.
It's a real, I think if there was money to be made in it, they would 100% be making bicycles. And I mean, it's not like they don't have the manufacturing capabilities.
Right.
Oh man, there is so much to see. Oh, this is a really cool collection of armaments here. And firearm design really doesn't seem to have changed all too much in the last 60, 70 years, maybe?
They're long guns.
Yeah, some of them are real long. Reminds me of Longmire. What a great show. 48 caliber, I've never seen any of those. Smith & Wesson handguns. Hey, we're familiar with the brand at least. We don't have revolvers, but look at these suckers. Yeah, I'm kind of a little preferential to our polymer handgun semi-automatics. Oh, whoa, look at that one. It's the barrel. That Big Company, the whole barrel turns on that thing. Look at that. There's a few like that. I didn't realize how common they were. That's interesting. All right. You shouldn't take it for granted. Ours are a little easier to load than those.
Yeah.
So apparently we can tour the Dymaxion house, a new way of living for 1946.
Circular house is the home of the future.
Well, our competitors offer old-fashioned square houses of wooden brick. No new ideas here. Well, this sure was a new idea. And I think, honestly, though, it kind of reminds me of the Space Needle a little bit. It's not a terrible idea, depending on how you look at it, I suppose. But, oh yes, this was a permanent fireproof home. Air is circulated throughout the house every 6 minutes. And especially somewhere like the Pacific Northwest, but the air comes up and comes over, and it's rotating at the top, I believe, to suck that air out. It kind of makes sense. I just feel like it would have been so trippy to be in the 40s. And
they were trying to mass produce these, like a mobile home.
They needed homes for folks coming back from the war and the boomers, so babies were being made. I find it so fascinating that attractive and efficient. No need for dresses. Cozy and stylish. Patent pending. Hey, we're kind of cozy and stylish.
Yeah. Hi there.
Hello.
If you want to take a look at the living and dining room, and then meet me over there by that tree.
Perfect. Thank you.
So this is a Dymaxion house, and kind of neat. So you have the aluminum riveted, which makes sense, right? Especially around the 40s. You had a lot of folks with those skills. Got plastic, acrylic.
Well, this is a living and dining room, and it looks like the walls don't even go all the way up.
All right, so this is our Dymaxion house. It was built by Buckminster Fuller in 1946. So World War II had just ended, and this was his solution to affordable housing. So when World War II ended, we had 16 million soldiers coming home from the war. All our men and women had been over fighting for the war. Nobody was at home building houses, so that's why we had a shortage of housing. Mr. Fuller had come up with these ideas in the 20s, and what was in his head to build this house with, we didn't even have those materials. So when the war ended, and we had only walls you couldn't move were the kitchen and the bathroom, they were dropped in as pots, so they were what they were.
Could not be more disappointed right now. I'm going in here, same day, just mere hours from leaving Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Everything corrupted. We actually received an error that said our card was too slow. I restarted it, didn't get the error again, and we had shot, in fairness, like it was probably another like hour and a half after what we already did, and I've cut things out. The worst part is it actually ended at my favorite exhibit while we were there. Also, don't mind all this crap. We're playing around with some shirt designs and having a little fun here. But yeah, so yeah. Anyways, over half of the video is gone. So good news, we know what the problem is. Hopefully.
And good news, you get the first half.
Yeah, but that little house was the coolest part, and I guess that just leaves so much up to the imagination.
And you can go see it yourself.
I think we went to the history of the U.S. after that in the Rosa Parks bus and the Call to Liberty
And the Abraham Lincoln's chair that he was shot in.
So all of the best parts is just infuriating. Anyways,
Yourself.
go see it for yourself. It is amazing, and you too can learn. I mean, you saw it. I had goosebumps while we were there.
You did.
Liberty is the greatest word in our dictionary. That's why we have the best country in the world. So, anyways, big bummer. Thank you guys for watching. This is the second time. Bye.